Hello and welcome to another update. In this one I'll be covering the Bakhmut front as nothing has really happened elsewhere. So starting out we have an update from Remy where he gives a rough overview. Overall there are no major changes. Heavy fighting along Larisi Shepitko Street, which is this one right here, Olympic School area and the post office. So here and here as well. So the heaviest fighting is happening here in the northwest by the front line. To the south, in the other side of the Chavkovsko Street and around the Monument of the Plain, fierce fighting is also raging. So right here and by this mixed stadium, so in these two areas. So currently we're seeing a lot of fighting to the northwest in this part of the front line, as well as in the southwest in these two parts. The high-rise buildings are heavily shot through by artillery, likewise the area of the Children's Hospital. So these two areas are heavily shelled, while fighting occurs in the northern and southern parts. On the flanks, hellish battles are raging in the Romova and Ivanivska areas. Positions change hands here every hour. So there's a lot of back and forth fighting by Romova as well as Ivanivska. And according to Remy, the fighting is so intense as the locations change hand every hour. So that's an hour, the Ukrainians recapture some territory, the Russians then capture some more territory, and so on. So that is the situation on the flanks. UA attempts counterattacks in some areas. They only serve to slow down Wagner's advance. Regained areas UA can only hold for 2 to 3 hours and then has to retreat again as the pressure from Wagner becomes too great again. Since the afternoon, however, the artillery fire from UA has noticeably increased, which slows down and complicates Wagner's advance somewhat. So essentially he's saying that while the Russian forces are bombing the citadel and Bakhmut Children's Hospital, the Ukrainian forces are attacking the Russian forces trying to advance on the front line, which means that they are heavily focusing their advances on the Russian forces, while at the same time the Ukrainians recently had a limit that they weren't going to pass through every day. That limit has been lifted, so they now go beyond that limit. So they just constantly shell without any stop. Both sides have recruited a certain manpower. Wagner wants to take Bakhmut as soon as possible. They know the UA offensive is imminent. UA has also built tremendous manpower in the Kramatorsk, Konstantinivka and Chasiv metropolitan areas. They may want to try to bypass Bakhmut to encircle Wagner from the flanks. To be honest, I think so too now. We'll see in the next few days. So this is an issue of dispute. The pro-Russian side claims that the Ukrainians are planning on some sort of offensive from the Slovyansk and Siversk area and from the Konstantinivka-Toretsk area, trying to doubly envelop the city of Bakhmut, completely recapturing everything from Soledar down to Satseve and the road here south of Bakhmut, all in one go with one major offensive with 80,000 Ukrainian troops trying to just go around all of the Russian troops fighting within the city and encircle everyone. So that is a reasonable assumption that has to be taken seriously by the Russian forces, because if they just ignore such a possibility, then when the Ukrainians come hitting on the door, they'll get knocked out. Luckily, it seems that they are worrisome about people knocking on their doors, so we can expect them to have prepared for it, which we can see based on the areas that they have captured. So they have the canal line here to the south. This gives them a very good defensive line here to the southwest, as it allows them to have the canal as a defensive line. As for to the north, they have Soledar, which although they have completely bombed, still serves as a proper defensive line to the north on flank. So they just So the job of the Russian forces is to hold Soledar and the canal line. If either of those falls, then their whole flank will be exposed to the Ukrainian forces, especially if they launch a major offensive. So essentially the job would be to hold Soledar as well as the canal line until Russian reinforcements from elsewhere on the front line or from the rear arrives to help them out. Otherwise, the Ukrainians' job would be to break through Soledar or the canal line, preferably Soledar, because the canal line will still prove a issue to cross through, while the Soledar area you just need to capture it and then it's an open field. So in that sense, the northern flank is the most exposed one for the Russian forces and should be the prime target for the Ukrainian forces. And then Remy finishes up with, but UA has not yet launched a massive attack in Bakhmut, and Wagner hasn't lost any major territory either. Please don't fall for fakes. Media operations are now also increasingly picking up speed from UA. Don't believe everything that is told. You don't have to believe everything I say, but I think I've always been right about Bakhmut because of my contacts. Wagner knows what it is doing, and it will lead to success. So he essentially says that the media information war has significantly increased, and I completely agree with that. There's been a lot of incidents recently, especially a significant increase in sabotage across Russia, which indicates which heavily increases the indications of an upcoming offensive from the Ukrainian side. They are severely trying to disrupt the supply lines of the Russian forces so that they are able to completely gain the upper hand when they launch their offensive. Because soldiers win battles, logistics win war. If you like my videos, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, as it helps me out a lot. It takes just a few seconds and it's very easy and completely free. And then a quick update around Belorivka. So the recent reports suggest that the Chechen forces in Ukraine actually managed to advance a slight bit here by the central area, and that they are closing in on the chalk factory, which is the one that is based on the area right here. And then we see a lot of fighting by Belorivka itself. So most likely the fighting here is actually being conducted by the Chechen soldiers rather than the other forces. And it seems to be the same area as they have been operating in since the start. So maybe they were rotated out and recently rotated in. But then there's also information based on deep state map and military land that there is some Chechen warriors by Zaporizhia front as well. So we'll see exactly what is going on with the Russian side, as it seems that the soldiers are spread around the whole front line. And that is going to be all for this update. Thank you all for watching and have a great day.